Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Key Ingredient Podcast. Today, I'm joined by Betsy Opyt. Betsy is a registered dietitian here in Naples, Florida, and this is not your first time on the Key Ingredient Podcast.
Not my first rodeo.
No, so welcome back.
Thank you so much. Thanks for inviting me back.
Thank you. We're happy to have you back. So the first time, obviously, when we spoke with you, it was very well received, and wanted to have you come back because I know a lot changes in the world, but certainly in your field. Betsy, for those who were not as fortunate to listen to the first episode, which of course they could go back to and listen to, just tell our listeners and viewers a little bit about yourself, please.
Yeah. So I'm a registered dietitian, a special one though. I have a specialty. I'm an integrative and functional nutrition specialist. So I go a little bit deeper into more root cause issues. I specialize with more autoimmune diseases, cancer, diabetes. I'm a diabetic educator. And I also have a specialty in GI health. So I work a lot with inflammation, food sensitivities, and issues like that, which more and more people are starting to develop these types of complications. And then my background is also in yoga. I'm very passionate about yoga. I've been doing it personally 15 years. I've been an athlete my entire life. Yoga, but changed my life. It really did. So I have one yoga studio that's been open for a year and a half, and I'm in the development of opening a second one in the south part of town.
Very nice.
Yeah.
I want to, you mentioned GI, right? That's a big thing these days.
Yes.
I mean, it seems like everyone I know has some kind of an issue, whether it's through bloating or just you hear about Crohn's disease and celiacs and all these types. I guess, if you don't mind, tell our listeners a little bit just kind of about, what you see and what some of the common traits, because it seems like more and more people are getting these kind of disorders, if that's the correct word.
That is absolutely. It's really what it is inflammation of the GI tract. And it's what we, in our medical terms, call leaky gut. And it's just when there's a possibility from food antigens to enter into the bloodstream, and it causes an inflammation type response. And so when you think about the nature of our food and the environment, the standard American diet is a SAD diet. It's very processed. So there's a lot of more chemicals and food additives, these grains, these pseudo grains, these things that are adding like GMOs to are really disruptive for our own body's ecosystem, specifically our gut microbiome. And that's what we're finding nowadays. The diversity in our gut isn't what it used to be because we're not eating the type of foods that the bacteria thrive on, which is fiber. So much of our food is void of fiber. It's the white breads, white flours. You go to McDonald's, there's no fiber in a burger there, right? So the poor bacteria are basically starving, and then the unhealthy bacteria are thriving off of those processed sugars, causing things like candida and the inflammation or blood sugar imbalances. So that's one root cause issue. The other one I'm seeing more and more of, and when you look in our traditional world, the stressful environment that we're all living in, and stress is a big component to inflammation in the body, specifically in your gut. And there's what they call the gut-brain connection. So they call the gut your second brain.
Okay.
And a lot of our hormones are produced in our gut, believe it or not, by bacteria. A lot of our vitamins and minerals are produced in our gut by the bacteria. So even our neurotransmitters, like 80 to 90% of our serotonin is produced by our gut. So your feel-good hormones that make you feel good, all are dependent on your gut microbiome. So when you're hearing more and more people developing things like depression, anxiety, you don't need to blame your brain. You need to blame your gut. And what you're eating has a huge influence on how your mood is. So the stress is a huge component, and of course the diet, and some of it could be genetic based too.
I was just to say some of it is hereditary, correct?
And things like that. But traditionally what I see in my practice is really with the diet and digestion. And I always say this, when you have gut health, you have to look upstream. So if you're, having the gas, bloating, diarrhea, well, you're not digesting your food. Could it be you're not chewing your foods well? Could you be that you're eating in under 10 minutes flat and not giving yourself enough time to actually chew and masticate that food so you get those enzymes? Because it's all about the enzymes, and the enzymes are what help break that down. Pancreatic enzymes, it's dependent on the bile salt. So, hey, what's the health of your liver? If your liver's sluggish because of lifestyle habits and you're not producing the bile that comes from the gallbladder, that helps break those fats down. So that could be another reason you're having some sort of difficulty digesting.
So I guess the point is very tricky, right? I mean, I would imagine diagnosing and treating those type of disorders that we mentioned is not easy because it just looks different for everyone.
Right? And I never, when I treat a client and I'm working with them, everyone's different. It's like a new person coming in, and I put my little detective hat on and I have my assessment questions I'm asking. And I love it because I've seen so much out there and I've experienced so much, and even my own personal health history. I had some gut issues growing up and I had a sluggish gut. And so what could I do to help optimize that from my own digestive standpoint? So learned a lot along the way, and I just love working with people and helping them optimize their health.
Very interesting. So last time when you were on, we spent a lot of time discussing really healthy lifestyle, right? About how important it is to exercise, about eating the right foods. That is a topic that, of course, we could spend hours on. But I wanted to shift gears a little bit today and really, I guess, spend a little bit of time on things like focus, mindset. I know those are some areas that you're really seeing a lot in your practice. Maybe tell us a little bit about that, please.
Yes, the mindfulness for me really evolved when I became more involved in yoga, because yoga is really teaching you to slow down. But when I first got into yoga, I have to admit, I went for the physical aspect of it. I was an athlete, I was a runner, a gymnast, I was always very active. So I was like, oh, hey, yoga, especially Bikram yoga, the hot yoga. I'm like, this is a physical workout because you get your heart rate up, you feel amazing after class. And it wasn't until probably 10 years into my physical yoga practice, I realized, oh, there's so much more to this. It's a mental and emotional practice for me now. And so when I go onto my mat, it's there to clear space, to quiet the mind, to just be at home in your body. And it's the best feeling ever when you actually spend that time in that stillness, because things become clear in your life. You can really tap into, what you're manifesting, what you're visualizing, what you want your purpose to be, what you want to practice that day. And it teaches you just to slow down and what really becomes important in your life, and all that other chatter and the monkey mind, it doesn't matter. But if you're very clear, and that's what the meditation does, the stillness, the sound healing, all these beautiful things I bring into the yoga practice. And that's why I love having a studio now, because I can share all my years of investing in my own practice. I can now gift other people on how to take that journey to that very peaceful place that yoga can bring, that mindfulness. And once you get there, it's like there's no going back, because you're forever changed from a cellular level. Like your whole vibration of your body changes once you get into that practice.
Interesting. So how long does it take before you get into that groove? So, and I say that because meditation, everything you read and watch and listen to, everybody's preaching meditation these days. And I think for me, when I look into it, really, I mean, there are a lot of different forms. I mean, you hear people say you should do it every day for a few minutes. Some people say a couple times a week. Some there are mantras, right? Or you can just have silence, right? Kind of what do you think? I mean, how many should people do this every day? And if so, I mean, what's a realistic amount of time to do?
It's a practice. And so just like you brush your teeth every day, right?
Yeah.
It's preventative health. This is a practice. It's bringing in what you need. And there's not a right or wrong answer to this. I mean, maybe everyone doesn't have time to do it every day. Like even for me, it's just being more aware during the day of when I need those moments of stillness, because life gets busy. I mean, even though I like to practice yoga, my life can be really busy. But these little things, like when you hit a stoplight, that red light means pause. So instead of there like, oh my gosh, where do I have to go? I'm at a stoplight. I missed the green light. You could be
check
like,
the phone.
You know what? Yeah, exactly. You could be like, I'm going to take this 1 minute of stillness, maybe just take a few deep breaths, kind of slow down my day, maybe just focus on a mantra or something.
Okay.
So the practice of meditation doesn't have to be, let's sit in the room for 10 minutes and listen to this guided meditation. It can be practiced all day long.
Yeah.
Certain moments.
So it's something I've tried to do myself and to get better at. And actually, it's funny. Meditation is really a practice. I mean, it really is something that, first of all, is not easy to do because we close our eyes, we're in silence, and we think about everything else. Right? I mean, it's really hard. So you could do the mantra, I guess, to try to maybe keep your focus on there. Although every once in a while, I guess you drift away and have to come back.
That's okay. And don't judge that. I mean, that's normal for thoughts to come in, and it's learning to detach from that. The thought comes in, and you're like, oh, that was a thought. There it goes. You know, and just being real still, like, because I know when I first started into my practice and it was the physical workout, I'd be there, like, what's my grocery list today? What do I have to do for dinner? What am I going after this?
Sure.
I was in my practice, but I wasn't in my mind. I was, out thinking outside that room. And so now when I practice, it's more, what am I feeling behind my kneecap? Am I feeling that ligament stretching? Am I feeling my heart opening as I'm stretching my arms back? Am I able to fold forward a little bit closer, getting my forehead closer to my toes? So it's like more I'm in my body. and out of my mind, and not judging myself if I'm not where I want to be in my practice. It's just flowing. And that's another thing that yoga's taught me, because growing up, I was very type A, like put a million things on my plate. You know, how many things can I do in one day, and feeling so accomplished at the end. Now it's more like, how can I just go with the flow? How do I not have to put so much pressure on myself to be a human doing instead of a human being? So it's a practice. Like I said, it took me 10 years just to unwind my mind. I was pretty wound up, I guess. But now in my practice, I have so much more joy, so much more freedom, so much more flow. And it's, as I've changed that, it's changed everything else in my life. And so many doors have just opened, like opportunities and things coming to me without me even asking or having to work hard for it. It's like, wow, there it is. I manifested this. It just showed up. Like the second studio, I'm like, it just happened, you know? So it's really incredible once you let go and be free and see what comes to you.
I like that. You mentioned a second studio.
Yeah.
When did you open that up?
It's not open yet. Okay. It's still in progress. It's called Be Hot.
Be hot. Okay. So hot yoga.
It's hot yoga. See, that's my origins. I started in the Bikram world. I did yoga competitions. I was like, I just love the infrared heat. There's something about, especially infrared. Not every studio is an infrared. The infrared actually works more at a cellular level to help you detox. So I think of it as detox yoga. You're sweating out toxins. It's also good for your mind too. And then that heat allows you to be more pliable. So you can really get a little bit deeper into the joints. You're moving the lymphatic system, the fascia tissue starting to move. So there's a lot of benefits of the hot. So we'll have different levels, because I know some people are intimidated by the hot.
I think so. Although we live in Florida, so
right, yeah,
you know,
you walk outside, it's 90 to 100 degrees.
Sometimes I do that just walking to the car. I consider that hot yoga, right?
Yeah, it is. When you're sitting in there, no air yet, you're like, oh. Yeah. So what some of the classes will be 105 degrees. Some are going to be between 90 to 95, and then we'll have like an 80 to 85 degree temperature. And we're going to have a variety of classes. So it won't just be yoga. We'll have some bar classes. We'll have meditation. We'll have sound healing. Because I went back to do some extra coursework in sound healing. So I'm actually a professional sound healing practitioner now.
Sound healing, okay.
Vibrational healing. It's incredible. So that's something I gift every class I teach. At the very end, I do at least 10 minutes of sound therapy.
So let's go right into that. Yeah. What is sound healing and sound therapy?
So all of our cells are a vibration. They all have a frequency. And so when you play to that frequency, you can actually structure water by playing tuning forks or some sound bowls, like those crystal singing bowls by your water. You can create structure. So it changes the harmony and the vibration of the water. Same thing with your cells. And when you have inflammation, for example, or a disease state, your cells vibrate at a lower frequency. So they say these tuning forks, if they're at the right pitch, can actually destroy cancer cells.
Really?
Mm-hmm. So that's why we use these healing tools. You can place them on the body, like the Tibetan bowls. Those, like, you know, you've seen those before.
Yeah,
like
yeah, I have actually.
The metal bowls, which they are beautiful. They have a totally different singing voice than the crystal bowls, but you can place them on the belly, play the bowl on the belly. You can take the tuning forks, and certain ones are harmonized for certain organs. So if I have someone that's dealing with some pancreatic issues, we might put it there to help increase the vibration or the frequency. I play chimes. I play a lot of the different crystals. We have rain sticks. So it's like almost a whole symphony of different sounds, which is really, it's beautiful, because we play the sounds at the end, because the whole point of yoga is to move the energy. This is like back when the monks were doing this. They were so restless in their minds because, you know, we got the monkey minds going on. Sure. So they're like, well, if we do all these yoga postures, we move the energy, we clear the energy. So when we finally sit down to go to meditation, we can be still. And so that's what the asanas were developed. So once we get you down onto the mat after you do all the postures, then you're in the stillness. And it's incredible. As I come around and I'm playing the bowls, I'm seeing people crying. You know, I come and I do massage, and all of a sudden they're just like smiling. You see this release, like they just melt into the mat. So it's like incredibly peaceful. And so they leave that class in such a higher vibration, like feeling so good, because their cells have just been energized with all this energy.
Wow. How long is the class?
It's an hour, depending. Like this Saturday, we have a Sounds of Yin class. So Christina is one of my instructors. The two of us teach. So we collaborate. At each end, we have our different sound tools. And so the whole class, the sounds just going from end to end. And at the end, she sings. She's a vocalist. And it's just beautiful when we're playing the crystals and she's singing.
Interesting.
So yeah,
wow.
it's nice. My favorite class, the Sounds of Yin. So.
You mentioned detox as well.
Mm-hmm.
I have ideas of what detox means, but why don't you tell us a little bit about that, please?
Yes. So I'm finding I have to, with my clients, do more and more detoxing. And I mean, you'll read this all the time when you read about detox. You're like, well, your body already detoxes because the liver is the major detoxifying organ. And then we have all of our elimination pathways. So you can sweat it out, you can exhale out toxins, you can urinate, and you can poop out toxins, basically. So we do have our pathways, but unfortunately, we live in a much more toxic world than we ever have in the past. I mean, we're breathing in toxins, we're touching everywhere, like even touching a receipt when you're checking out the register has BPA on it. Okay. So then you put it in your hand to your mouth and now you're eating it, you know, so it's like anything you put on your skin is absorbed, and anything that comes into our body, breathing, eating, or skin absorption goes to the liver, and that liver is the major detoxifying organ. And so the liver is like, hey, I'm either going to bless this or block it. And so if it blocks it, then it has to find somewhere in your body to go. So where it goes, the safest spot is your fat. So all of your toxins. So when you start gaining weight, you're actually becoming more and more toxic. So when I'm working with clients specifically with weight loss, I'm like, we have to be very careful how to detoxify you, because as you start losing weight, these toxins start going into your body systemically. So we want to make sure we properly eliminate them. So I have varying different types of detoxes I might help someone assist them through. I find the one that most everyone is needing to do right now is a liver and gallbladder flush, and working on optimizing the liver, because the liver is the one it's the first line of defense there. It's kind of looking at these toxins and what do we do and how do we eliminate them? And when your liver's sluggish, you're more than likely going to be storing these. So, sure. And then there's also dealing with things like leptin, these natural hormones in our body that are meant to help you with your appetite, your satiety, and your weight management. So there's a new product out, and that's why I brought it. I'm so excited. It just,
so you brought some goodies. So let's go into
launched. And it literally, this is my first bottle. I'm just like, oh my God, I'm so excited. So this one is actually completely rebalancing the body from a natural state. It's all natural fibers, plant fibers and amino acids. And it just,
so those are pills, correct?
It's a supplement.
It's a supplement. Okay.
Yeah. So what it does is, and it's like my little secret here. So I'll send the link to you, and you can post it. But it's not a magic pill. I don't want anyone to think that, but what it does is it naturally just balances your hormone, the leptin hormone specifically. So your body is feeling more calm and balanced. And then it communicates to the fat cell to release itself. So then you can, through healthy diet too. And, and of course we want to do some binders like activated charcoal to help hold those toxins and excrete them out of the body.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then I always start my day with a green drink. I mean, I throw like everything except the kitchen sink in here.
So what is in there then? What
Probably 20 different ingredients.
Is that right?
So it's really whatever green. Like today I put collards in, usually it's spinach or kale or arugula. Sometimes I'll throw that in. I always put a little bit of fruit. So today it was banana and pineapple. And then I load it with my superfoods and herbs. So I love using cilantro. Cilantro is a natural detoxifier. I love using spirulina, chlorella, or chlorophyll. Those are all natural detoxifiers as well. So they'll bind onto just every day as you're breathing in the toxins. If you have a little of that in your food, like every day, you know, put a little cilantro on your sandwich, or put it on a salad, or have it as a garnish on your salmon at dinner. Sure. You know, it's just all day long going to bind some of those toxins. Then I always add like either ginger, turmeric, something like an anti-inflammatory. I always add broccoli sprouts because that protects your DNA. What else is in here? It's
quite the concoction there.
Yeah, it takes me a little while to whip this one up in the morning, but it's good.
So
it
you
makes
have
me
that
feel great.
Every morning when you wake up, that's something you have.
And I change it up. It's not exactly the same because I'm really big about people not being in a food rut and eating the exact same things every day.
That is me. Guilty as charged.
Well, it's natural. I mean, we go to tend to do things that are easy for us. So every time I go to the grocery store, I'm always picking up different produce. So if this week I got spinach, next week it's arugula, and then maybe I'm picking up different fruits. So that way it's just kind of changing things up a lot.
So you mentioned superfoods. So what is some of the maybe top 2, 3, 4 superfoods that you would say are the best ones that we should be having?
Okay. Oh gosh, there's so many. I would say my go-to that I try to have at least on daily, I like to try to do something that is a sea green from the sea. So it might be kelp. Kelp is one I kind of sprinkle over salads. It could be wakame. It could be any of those type of sea vegetables.
Okay. Never had that
like
before.
Seaweed. Okay. Yeah. So seaweed has a lot of iodine, which everyone's deficient in iodine. And I do take supplemental iodine on top of that because I know I don't eat as many sea greens as they do over in Japan.
Sure.
They eat that all the time. That's why they don't have breast cancer. The iodine's huge in preventing the breast cancer. So that's one I do every day is some sort of sea green. And then I love the broccoli sprouts.
Yeah.
Because it's really good for the liver, but it's also good for your DNA. So that's why, it's so funny. I was out with my daughter. She just turned 16 this weekend. So I took her over to Miami and everyone thought I was her sister.
Oh,
and I'm like, it's all those broccoli sprouts I've been eating, right?
Wow.
It reverses the aging process.
That kelp.
Right?
That'll do it.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, that's what superfoods are meant to do. They're to keep your body healthy. And our bodies are meant to be resilient. It's just we live in a society that's very toxic. And even this is important to mention. This is why the yoga is so key in this. Even our emotions are toxic. You know, the one organ that holds the emotions of fear, anger, hurt, resentment is the liver. And, you know, the fastest growing disease right now is non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And think about what we all have been through since COVID.
Sure.
And now this hurricane here in Naples. I mean, there's a lot of stress, a lot of fear, a lot of sadness. And so our organs hold those emotions. And that's why yoga is so good and beneficial. Like when I'm teaching a class, I'm actually going through and instructing them on what organ's releasing right now, what organ is opening. Like when you do a chest like a camel, you're opening your heart, you're giving your lungs space to breathe. This is moving lymphatic fluid through because the lymphatic system holds the toxins.
Sure.
So you are literally detoxing your body when you move it. And that's why they say a sedentary lifestyle or someone who sits all day is worse for your health than a smoker. Like it'll kill you faster if you sit because you're not moving your lymphatic system. You're not detoxifying your body.
Wow. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So smokers should walk as they smoke. Is that right?
Well, I guess that might be a little out there.
Might be a little bit out there.
But just think of all those toxins that, you know, you're inhaling,
sure.
even the vape pens. I mean, they're loaded with junk. So if you are someone that you can't break that habit, I would tell you, hands down, green drink, do some spirulina, chlorella, any of those. So at least whatever you're inhaling, it'll bind and then help you excrete it out of your body so you don't become toxic over and over.
What about kale? Is that a superfood?
Kale's great.
Yeah, that's a good
Kale's
one.
What collards, like I mentioned earlier, I love the collards. Arugula is really an interesting one because bitters are important, bitter greens.
Yeah.
Like dandelion greens. Dandelions are a little too bitter for me, but arugula is a good one. Mint is another one. But what these bitters do is they help aid in digestion. So when I'm dealing with someone who's having a lot of gas and bloating, the first thing I do is I put them on bitter foods and say with each meal, I want you to have at least one bitter food with this meal so it'll help aid in digestion.
Wow. Interesting. Yeah. Another thing you mentioned, Betsy, is biohacks.
Yeah.
What are biohacks?
So biohacks are the latest technology that kind of help us optimize our health or help us enhance the healing process. So like this is one I have right here, the Oura Ring.
Oh, you have the Oura Ring. Okay.
Which I love. And so it tracks steps.
It's sleeping as well, right?
I mean, sleep. Yeah. Like I am big. The 4 pillars of health, these are the ones when I'm sitting down with someone, I go over all of them. Hydration, sleep, stress, nutrition. I missed one. Exercise. So there's 5 pillars of health. Yeah, exercise is an important one, but sleep is really, that's when your body recovers, is at night. So hopefully people don't eat right before they go to bed because that actually interrupts the entire digestion system, but it also interrupts your healing system. And each organ has its own circadian rhythm. So there's certain hours during the night where the organ will go into its rejuvenation stage. So when I'm working with a client, I'm like, so do you wake up during the night? And they're like, yeah, I wake up around 2, 3 o'clock. I'm like, that's your liver. We need to do a liver flush.
Wow.
You know, because the liver is healing between the hours of 2 and 4 o'clock. It's also tied in with your pancreas. So a lot of my clients who are diabetic or pre-diabetic, they'll be waking up between those hours too, because the liver and the pancreas are tied in. So I know we need to do some rejuvenating and helping them out, optimize their insulin a little better.
So trying to hack the body is obvious. I mean, what is it? Bulletproof? I think that was a really big idea, right? As far as trying to hack your body, just like you would hack a computer or anything else.
Yeah, exactly. So there's things like ozone therapy, there's hyperbaric chambers, there's cryotherapy, there's stem cell, there's peptides now. I mean, there's
So many
different things being developed. There's a new one out there that's really good for Alzheimer's, so it's helping your memory. That's not even been brought down to Florida yet. So there's a lot of new technology that's even over in Europe. There's one that just it's funny. I was meeting with one of my doctors in town, Kurilovich, and I had heard about this on a podcast because I was studying about cancer. I was working with a cancer patient at a very specific type of cancer, and one of the new technologies by this gentleman, I think he's out of Germany, he can do a blood sample and tell you exactly which type of cancer you have at stage 1. Really? They can't even pick up stage 1 on probably an MRI or anything. And so it's through blood. And there's like, I forget how many different types of cancers, like hundreds of them. Wow. And so he, through one blood test, can tell you where you are. And then we know if you're at stage 1, what you can do, because your body will go after cancer cells. It's called autophagy. Your body is meant to cleanse itself. It's meant to heal itself. So if you put your body in a fasting state, or there's other ways to hack into autophagy. I mean, that's the big thing, the Bulletproof and all of them are talking about how beneficial fasting is. And I think everyone should adopt to some style of a fasting lifestyle just for longevity living, so you can kill off those cancer cells. So like
intermittent fasting, right?
It's like an intermittent or a 3-day water fast. It just depends how deep you want to go.
Sure.
And I mean, it's hard at first. I know for me, when I first went into fasting, I was like, oh, I'll never be able to go a day without eating. But the body's pretty resilient. Like, you get used to it. It's kind of like going to the gym for the first time. You're not going to go and push hard for an hour.
Sure.
You know, you go in a little bit at a time, you get stronger and stronger. So I call it the fasting muscle. The more you practice it, the easier it becomes.
Makes sense. You mentioned cryotherapy as well. What are your views on that?
Oh, I like cryotherapy. I think it's great for sleep. It's great for inflammation. I like the one where your whole body goes in, so your head gets it too, because there could be a lot of inflammation going on in the brain. The brain's interesting. The brain's, pretty much 80% fat, which are, lipids. And lipids, I mentioned earlier, hold toxins. So our brains can be very toxic. And when you sleep at night, your brain will shrink by 30%. And there's what's called the glymphatic system. So we have the lymphatic, which is in our body. The glymphatic is in our brain. And so at night, when our brain shrinks, it takes all those toxins and takes it out of the brain into our lymph nodes. And then we drain it out through our lymph system. That's why when you wake up in the morning, the 2 things you should do is pump your lymph. So you could either like pump right under here. There's some nodes. You can just do some pumping.
Okay.
You could put your hands right in your armpits. Kind of look like a little bird here. But you can pump your lymph. You can take a dry brush and dry brush the lymph, and you brush it all towards the heart. Or you could jiggle.
Okay.
So you're just standing, or use those power plates.
Yeah.
You see those? It's kind of like that. You just jiggle, but that moves your lymphatic system. Or just exercise, yoga. You could do some yoga posture, but that will kind of move some of those toxins out.
What about a glass of water when you wake up? I hear a lot of people say it's like because you're dehydrated right when you wake up.
I told you that pillar of health. One of them is hydration. So I always tell people when you wake up, you're already 16 ounces dehydrated. So the very first thing you should do is put that back into your body.
Sure.
And then you're starting at par.
Yeah.
Then you need to keep drinking all day long. And it's not just drinking water, it's the quality of the water. Because remember, toxins are everywhere, and toxins are very much in our water. I would never drink Naples Finest with tap water. I always go through a filtration system that also will filter out the fluoride. So whether you have a system installed in your house, I have one that's a pitcher for the refrigerator, kind of like a Brita, but it's a little bit better quality one.
Okay.
Or I buy the Mountain Valley spring water in the glass bottles, because you want to make sure it's in glass and not plastic. And those will be the better sources.
Interesting. Wow. A lot of good stuff there.
Yeah.
So as we wind down, I wanted to ask you also, I think every year, is it once a year you do a retreat?
Yes.
So you have one coming up?
I do.
So tell me about that.
I know last year, we were just talking about this last year.
Last year was Costa Rica, correct? Okay. Yeah.
And then this year I'm heading to the Dominican Republic in a few weeks. I love to travel. I just love the journey of travel, and then having a retreat on top of that where you're doing yoga every day, you're immersed in culture and nature. We do adventure, we do relaxation. So I have 4 planned for next year. One of them being in the Bahamas on a catamaran. Then we're heading to Cancun. Then we're heading down to Jamaica, and then a few more, possibly Europe, Bali, Thailand, that we're going to plan eventually.
So what's it like? So how many people actually go in this retreat? How long are they there for? What should they expect?
Yeah, it varies. Some of my smaller ones are a group of, maybe 4 or 5. They're more intimate ones, which I love those, because you really get to know everyone, and it just all these bonds begin to happen.
And you spend the whole day. I mean, you spend the whole time together, right?
No, well, not necessarily. Okay. We like to give you freedom. We like to go get up in the morning, do our morning yoga. Then you can go about your day. I always plan things. So like, hey, if you want to meet for lunch, or hey, we're going to go on this tour, you're welcome to join us. happiness. Some people want to come and be as active as they can and be around people. Some people just need to shut off. You know, their days are busy enough at home that they just want to come and unwind, and they're more than welcome to hang out on the beach all day, do whatever you want to do, plan your own excursions. If you want to meet us for dinner later, that's great. So, you know, everyone will show up for yoga generally, but then the rest of their day is really their day. And so it's just taking them to a beautiful place in paradise and just letting them enjoy their life, because that's what we're meant to do.
I love that.
Live beautifully, live freely, live kindly. Yeah. Just be at peace.
I love it. Any parting words for us? Any further advice that you think any of us should really be focused on at this point?
Just honor yourself. I think sometimes we are just so hard on ourselves and we push ourselves to the nth degree. And like I said, we're here to live, to be human beings and not human doings. That is my favorite thing. I
love that saying. Yeah,
right?
I like
we
that.
need to honor that a little bit more. And I know I certainly have practiced that now. And I was in a different mindset many years ago. And it's just, once you get to that place of peace, it is just bliss. And so I just want people to be kind to themselves, because when you're kind to yourself and you love yourself, that just emanates. You're at such a higher vibration and you start to attract those type of people in your life. And that's when life becomes abundant.
Love it. Love it. Betsy, you are absolutely terrific. Always fun to have you on the Key Ingredient Podcast. Thanks again for doing this and for your wealth of knowledge. It's always very, very interesting.
You're welcome. Thanks for the invite.
Thank you.